Hi, and welcome to This Week in East Brunswick, the town's own news and information program. Today we'll go on location to Warnsdorfer School with Information Officer Amy Fisher for a special look at a program taking place these next few weeks. And since our high school winter sports coverage has come to an end this year, we'll take a quick look back at some of the sports we've covered. And this past weekend, we were able to take a look at the work of sculptor Nancy Cohen at the East Brunswick Library. Our regular features will include an arts update with Dolly Vasta, consumer information from the head of the Department of Consumer Affairs, Adrian Eisner, and our Township Council review. But first, here's a quick look at what's on Channel 8 next week. Monday at 10 a.m., exercise along with Lenore Kulik on Look Great, Feel Great, followed at 10:30 by stories from the library for the kids. Tuesday evening at 7, it's in print from the city of Beverly Hills. At 7:30, host Ken Shalhoub interviews Dr. Miriam Aronson about understanding Alzheimer's disease on Let's Talk Health, followed with Paul Hansen's financial information on You and Your Money at 8 p.m. And at 8:30, host John Runyon speaks with members of the Redevelopment Agency on business bylines. Wednesday evening at 7:30, Spotlight on Education looks at the special education program in our elementary schools. And at 8 p.m., Channel 8 host Stuart Davis looks at the teen workforce in town on 18 growing up in East Brunswick. And we'll be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. for another edition of This Week in East Brunswick. And at 8 p.m., a special live cablecast of the East Brunswick Board of Education school budget presentation. And if you've missed anything, check the Channel 8 program guide for repeats of all of our shows. Now let's go over to Warnsdorfer School.
Hi, I'm Amy Fisher, the Information Officer for the school system. Today I'm at Warnsdorfer School with Joan Swalek, who's the reading specialist here. Joan is the winner of the school award for the Governor's Teacher Recognition Program for the 1987-88 school year. As a result, the school received $1,000 to be used for an educational purpose that she decided on. And today she's going to tell us about the program she planned, and then we're going to see a little bit of it in action. So Joan, tell us, what did you do with the money?
Last year, Mrs. Lieberman had a Meet the Author program when she won the Governor's Teacher Recognition Award. And I wanted to extend this idea because the reading and the writing generated by this program was phenomenal. So I wanted to extend it, and I thought I'd go into the area of poetry. I contacted the New Jersey Council of the Arts, and they told me I was eligible for matching funds. So I wrote a proposal, and we got matching funds along with the governor's grant, and we had enough to have a professional poet come into our schools every day for 20 days. She's working in grades 2 through 5, and so far she's been received very well. There's been a lot of writing and enthusiasm for poetry generated by this, and we're very happy to have it.
And what is her name?
Her name is Lynn Powell. She's from Princeton, New Jersey, and she is a professional poet.
Well, we're going to go to a 5th grade class taught by Donna Taylor, who's having its visit from the poet today, and we'll see what she does with the students.
Let's see, what did we talk about last week? Anybody remember what we talked about last week? Oh, we talked about last week. Right here, what we talked about last week?
Delicious words.
Talked about delicious words. And the week before that, we were doing what?
Sounds.
About sounds. We've been using our ears a lot in the writing of our poems the last 2 weeks. And I'm going to keep with that, because you've been using your ears so well. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to use them to go back into our memories with today. But first I want to read you a poem by a contemporary poet named Ruth Whitman. And in this poem, Ruth Whitman goes back into her memory, back to the time when she was a small child. And as a small child, she remembers listening to something that made a very strong impression on her. Something that she remembers a strong feeling associated with. Something happened inside of her as she was listening. And what she was listening to was her parents arguing. This is the poem she wrote to describe how she felt, listening to them fighting as she remembers it. Tell me what you think she was feeling as she heard them fighting. Listening to grown-ups quarreling. Standing in the hall against the wall with my little brother, blown like leaves against the wall by their voices, my head like a ping-pong ball between the paddles of their anger. I knew what it meant to tremble like a leaf. Cold with their wrath, I heard the claws of the rain pounce. Floods poured through the city, skies clapped over me, and I was shaken, shaken like a mouse between their jaws. What is she feeling? How would you describe the feeling that she has inside as she's listening to them fight?
Scared?
She's scared. Okay, what else is she feeling? She's frightened, she's scared. Anything else she's feeling? She's listening? What other?
Sad, upset.
Yeah, I think she's feeling sad and frightened. Anything else?
Maybe worried.
Worried. What do you think she's worried about?
Like maybe if her parents get divorced.
Yeah, yeah. Something bad's going to happen from this.
She might be angry that her parents are fighting.
Angry herself, that their anger is coming out and they're fighting. Now what's interesting about this poem is that although I think she is feeling all those things are going on inside of her. There's a lot happening inside of her. We feel that as we hear the poem, but what's interesting about this poem is she never says, I am angry. She never says, I'm disappointed, or I'm worried, or I'm frightened. She never uses those words. She never tells you what she's feeling. She just shows you what is happening inside of her. She shows you what's happening inside of her, and one way she does that is by using similes. We talked about similes last time, didn't we? We made similes. A simile is a comparison between two things. She compares what she's feeling inside. She makes pictures. She uses the word like to describe how she's feeling. Who heard a simile? What was one of the similes?
Like getting a ping pong ball getting paddled between their anger.
Good. My head was like a ping pong ball between the paddles of their anger. Very good. What other simile did you hear?
Skies clapping over her.
Okay, the skies were clapping. That loud sounds a good sound word, like we were mentioning.
Shaking like a mouse.
Okay, I was shaken like a mouse between their jaws. That's a pretty scary picture, isn't it? I was shaken like a mouse between their jaws. What other simile did you hear?
Blown like the wind.
Okay, blown like.
the wind by leaves.
Okay.
Leaves.
Right, we were blown like leaves against the wall by their voices. Their voices were so loud, they were like a hard wind that blew us back. And we were as fragile as leaves blown against the wall. Okay, I want to ask you for a moment to go back into your memories. It can be back into the distant, distant past, or it can be the recent past. But go back into your memory and think of things that you have listened to. Things that you have listened to that have left a strong impression on you. Now, it doesn't have to be an unhappy memory like this one. It could be a very happy memory. Maybe you remember going to the ocean and the sounds you heard there at night as you were trying to go to sleep, listening to the ocean, whispering to the shore. Maybe you've been camping and the sounds you've heard there, or maybe you remember when a little baby brother or sister was brought home from hospital for the first time, some sounds you heard there. What are some things you remember listening to in your past? Some things that made a strong impression on you. What's something you remember listening to?
I remember the day that I picked up a basketball and made my first basket, and my parents were all happy, and so was I.
Okay, what was the sound you remember?
Yay!
You remember your parents cheering. What did you say?
When I went to Great Adventure,
Okay, tell me some sounds you heard at Great Adventure. What do you remember listening to?
people screaming
Why were they screaming?
because they were on a roller coaster.
Okay. What I want you to do today is to go back into your memory, as we've begun to do in our brainstorming, and write a poem like Ruth Whitman's poem, in which you remember what it was like to be listening. Listen to this, whatever it was you were listening to. And I want you to help me, as the reader or the listener to your poem, to also hear that sound. I want you to describe it in such a way that I hear that sound too, using good sound words, and also maybe using similes, like Ruth Whitman did in her poem, to really help me see and hear what's going on. But the other thing I want you to do in this poem is to let me know what was happening inside of you as you were listening, much as Ruth Whitman did. I don't want you to say I was happy. or I was sad, that's telling me. I want you to let me see what's happening inside of you.
This past week, Channel 8 finished its 4th season of East Brunswick High School sports coverage. What began as an experiment to test viewer interest in 1984 has grown from covering only football to covering soccer, gymnastics, basketball, and wrestling. The viewer response has been tremendous to all the sports that Channel 8 has brought you. The credit for the success of the program goes to John Megliero, the host of Channel 8's Sports Talk. Since 1982, John has donated hundreds of hours to bring you local sports figures and events on Sports Talk. In September of 1984, we taped and cablecast one East Brunswick High School football game with John handling the commentary alone. Due to the viewer response to that game, we taped 3 more football games that year, and John brought Sentinel News sports writer Jimmy Allender on board to help with the play-by-play. Late in the 1985 football season, Phil Hill joined John and Jimmy as the play analyst. In 1986, we expanded our coverage to include 25 sport events in their entirety. John, Jimmy, and Phil have put in literally hundreds of hours in preparation for and in doing the shows, and something most viewers don't realize is that all 3 of these people are volunteers. They give up their Friday and Saturday nights for 4 or 5 months to provide East Brunswick residents with a unique and valuable service. The staff of Channel 8 would like to express our appreciation and thanks to John, Jimmy, and Phil for making Channel 8's sports programming the success that it is. Let's take a quick look at some of the sports we've covered this past winter.
Trent with the jumper. No good. Foreman with the rebound. And Brady will bring it up for the Eagles. East Brunswick playing a tight man defense. And a bad pass will bring it down. Forte to Trent.
Super pass.
And the layup is good. And the Bears are up by 6, 10-4.
That play right there showed you Brian Forte's natural ability. He was looking the other way. And, you know, it was interesting that he did not see Trent going on the right side. And I have to think that that's one of the reasons why he's a good passing quarterback in football. He has that sense of being around, of seeing things that normal people can't see.
Edison having trouble. And a foul will be called inside.
Unsuccessfully, and East Brunswick gets the ball. That's Salamini. She's the floor leader. Okay, Kim Pryor. And the follow-up, Kim Harden. That's her first basket. East Brunswick 7-0. Phil, South Brunswick having trouble getting the ball across.
They really are. Tough defense by the Bears.
Shot. It's by April Pilato. And the ball is brought down by Randy Klein. That's inside. Holland with the shot. Missed. Followed up by Kim Harden. And East Brunswick again. And there's a point there. 16-7, John.
Down to 20 seconds.
And a satisfactory victory for Walt Toto. Doesn't get the pin, but it's not the name of the game here.
And again, it provides East Brunswick with its first victory tonight.
Whoa. Okay, that should be 3.
Let's see if they give it to him.
No.
And they won't. So it finishes up 16-7, Toto with the victory.
Hi, I'm Dolly Baster with your arts update for this week. I just wanted to remind all of you out there, this Friday night, February 26th, at Playhouse 22, they will open with their early spring production of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, that wonderful comedy drama. Now, the show will run Friday and Saturday nights and Sunday matinees through March 28th. Matinees are at 3 o'clock on Sunday, and curtain time on Friday and Saturday nights is 8:30. The show is being directed by an East Brunswick resident who a lot of you know, an ex-professional actor himself, Bob Murray. It's a wonderful show with a wonderful cast, and I hope all of you will come out. Now to go on to another update, why we're still selling tickets for Chen and Dancers. They're going very well, and that production will be done March 19th at 8 o'clock p.m. at the East Brunswick High School office. Now, to get tickets for the Playhouse, call 254-3939. That's 254-3939. And the number for Chen and Dancers is 390-6825. That's the East Brunswick Arts Commission office, 390-6825. That's about it for Arts Update. I'll see you all next week. In the meantime, take care, and don't forget to read the Recreation magazine, which is out now.
Come join the Middlesex County Libraries in celebrating the work of 9 area artists in a program entitled Art Goes Public. The Artist in Residence program affords the public the opportunity to observe artists displaying their talents, and it's all free of charge. This past weekend, we were able to observe the work of Artist in Residence at the East Brunswick Public Library, sculptor Nancy Cohen. Among the materials Nancy uses in her sculptures are wood, cement, found objects, and paper mache.
I'm working with shapes and different materials, and I'm trying to get certain kinds of feelings. And then I get to a certain point. All 3 of these are at that point. I have all the shapes just like I want them. I'm not yet sure what kind of color I want, what kind of texture, but then I need to think about how it's going to stand and what kind of environment it's going to be in, and that's why I make the base. I make the base both so that it's exactly at the right height that I want it to be, but also so that as you approach it, you get a feeling about what it is. None of these sculptures have titles yet. I usually think of the title when I'm done, but they're made of all different materials. There's a saw blade in here. This sculpture has another kind of saw blade, and this one also has, among other things, a grenade and a bullet, and a piece of wood, a piece of a tree limb. I'm interested in mixing man-made shapes and natural shapes to have a combination of feelings. When I'm done, when these are painted, you won't be able to tell immediately what the shapes are made of, but I want you to think of that later on.
If you miss Nancy at the East Brunswick Public Library, look for a Channel 8 interview with her on Eye on the Library in March. The Art Goes Public program is sponsored by the various libraries, the Artists League of Central New Jersey, and the Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission. The East Brunswick Library is looking forward to hosting watercolor artist Anna Continos on March 19th and 20th and sculptor Edmund Spiro on April 17th and 18th. Art Goes Public runs from February through May. If you would like additional information or a complete schedule, please call 745-4489.
Hello, my name is Allison Rossbrook. I'm a 9th grader at Churchill Junior High School, and I will be presenting this week's Comment on the Constitution. My topic is Procedures for Electing a President. The Constitutional Convention created the idea to have a president to lead our nation, but its members were doubtful on a way to elect him. At first, the delegates were influenced to have Congress do the job. They eventually decided, however, that this would violate the principle of the separation of powers and would make the executive too dependent on the legislature. One aristocrat, Gouverneur Morris, and one Democrat, James Wilson, amazed everyone by suggesting that the people choose the president. But the delegates were not ready to go this far towards democracy. Though the American Revolution had given them the right to government, their full participation was still yet to come. Then what about a kind of Mr. America contest? Asked John Dickinson, a representative of Delaware. Let each state nominate its best citizen, and then Congress could select one of these 13 as president. Again, this proposal aroused little enthusiasm. James Wilson then suggested that a handful of members of Congress be chosen at random, and then these men choose a president to lead our people. But the men at the convention could just not agree. So they gave up and called upon a committee of 11 to settle postponed matters. This committee recommended that each state legislature provide a certain number of electors, the same number as states' representatives and senators combined. These electors would meet and choose a president. But if no candidate received a majority of votes, the Senate would choose from among the 5 highest. A tired convention accepted this solution, unhappy that it gave the House the right to decide an inconclusive election, with each delegation there having 1 vote. Though there have been slight changes and more laws added to this procedure, this is the basis of how we elect our president today. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrienne Eisner, Director of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Most people are 65 when they become eligible for Medicare, a health insurance program that is part of Social Security. Medicaid is another part of Social Security, but its purpose is to help cover health costs for low-income people, such as members of poor families with dependent children, some people over the age of 65, people who are blind, those with other disabilities, and pregnant women in certain circumstances. Many people are confused about the differences between Medicare and Medicaid because of their similar names. To help overcome this confusion, the United States Department of Health and Human Services is making available a free pamphlet called Medicare and Medicaid, There is a Difference. For your free copy, send your name and address to Department 589T, Consumer Information Center, Pueblo, Colorado, 81009. Medicare is an insurance program. Its hospital coverage is for almost all people 65 and older, regardless of their income. There are 2 groups of people under age 65 that it also covers: those with disabilities who have been entitled to Social Security disability payments for at least 2 years, and certain people with permanent kidney failure. Medicare services are the same throughout the United States. Medicaid is an assistance program that was established by federal law but is administered by the individual states. The programs vary somewhat from state to state within the federal guidelines. You apply for Medicare at your Social Security office. To get Medicaid, check with the Medicaid office in Middlesex County. They can be reached at 549-3884. Perhaps you are eligible for one or both of these programs. To learn more, send for your free copy of Medicare and Medicaid, There is a Difference. If you have any additional questions or need further advice, please be sure to contact us at the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. We're located in the Municipal Building, and we're open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware. See you again next time.
At Monday night's council action meeting, Mayor William Fox proclaimed the month of March Mental Retardation Month, and he announced the week of March 7th as Library Book Sale Week. This is when Friends of the Library will be holding a book sale at the Brunswick Square Mall. The mayor also reported progress on negotiations between the Middlesex County Utilities Authority and the township regarding the future of Edgeboro Landfill. At a special action meeting last week, the council instructed Mayor Fox to tighten up the agreement before he signed a contract with the authority. The final negotiations have been settled, and Fox is endorsed by Councilman Louis Becker, William Kirk, and Jack Sinagra to sign the agreement by March 22nd. Council President Russ Walker and Councilman Joseph Hudak opposed the plan. Mayor Fox simplified the agreement by explaining that they agreed to stop fighting the dump in exchange for $3 million a year. And during the public portion of the meeting, one resident asked the council when repairs would be made on the Cranberry Road Riders Lane intersection. He was instructed that it was a county road and that he should direct his complaints to them. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.